everybody, I'm Tom Vessel, and welcome to Week in Review, or in this case, Weeks in Review, because we got a couple weeks of stuff to go through for you, so we better get started now.
Hey everybody, I'm Garcia. Here's what I did over the last couple of weeks. So, I did a video with Tom where we talked about 3 pretentious abstracts, and I rated those 3 games. They go from 6 all the way down to possibly a 2 out of 10. Check that video out. I reviewed Sfynx, which I gave a 7.5 to. This is an abstract solitaire, really basically solitaire game. You can play with more, but you're splitting a solitaire among multiple people. And it's one in which you're moving tiles around, trying to make patterns, trying to complete these various patterns before your clock runs out, with the game kind of messing with you and, moving around your tiles as you're fighting to get these things done. It's visually a little tricky. I wish it was sort of the clarity of the whole thing visually was a little bit better, but the gameplay is very interesting. The game has a nice amount of reward built into it, whereas you complete things, it sort of rewards you with more power, and so you do feel yourself becoming a little bit better, being able to achieve things that seemed unachievable at first, and I like the way it plays out. I reviewed Post Office with Tom. I gave this one a 7. This is a tile laying game with some neat moving parts, sort of a dual layered game in which you are building first a pattern on the bottom, and then above that using, I guess it's tape, you're taping, but it's basically more polyominoes that you're placing on top of that. Really interesting, very thinky, very puzzly. I like the look quite a bit, and the gameplay has enough scoring to make it nice and replayable. I want to come back to it and try different things that maybe I didn't do so well the first time. I like that very much. I reviewed another game that is similar, and that is Donut Shop, and I gave that one a 6 out of 10. This one I find a little bit more dry, a little bit less exciting, but it has a really similar feel. You put out tiles, they have donuts, you're scoring for donuts next to donuts for, building groups, but then you are boxing them up, and that gets you points, i.e. money, as well. I like the idea in this one, and I like the push and pull between building big groups, but then not leaving big groups for your opponents. You want to box them up and cover them. But I found the curvature of the game, the sort of excitement, didn't really build up too much for me, and I was kind of doing the same things at the beginning as I was doing at the end. Didn't really, there was no big drive in, Post Office. These are not necessarily something I need to compare. But in Post Office, my grid it's my own personal thing, and it's starting to fill up. In the donut game, Donut Shop, that's not a thing. It's just, I can keep spreading, So yeah, I found that a little bit flat, generally. I reviewed Mythic Battles Ragnarok, and I gave this one a 7.5. This is a big, massive, sprawling box, but the gameplay actually kind of feels small. It has a lot of keywords, it has a lot going on, and it's kind of hard to get to the table again, especially after a while off the table. But the gameplay is clean, generally speaking. The turns are very fast. And then there's this sort of interesting hand management. You use these cards to activate your people, and that part is very clever. You need to have their cards so that they activate, but if they're particularly powerful, fewer cards of that character might exist in your little deck of cards. I really like that balance. I like the way that the whole thing manages to take all these moving parts and go, you play a card and move that person. You want to play another person, you have to spend this special card, and then you can take another action. Cool. Works well. I like it. I reviewed Gold West 2nd Edition. I gave this one an 8 out of 10. This is from Trick or Treat Studios, which is not the publisher I would expect to see Gold West reprinted by, but they did a good job. The game is very similar to the original one, and in fact, I did a side-by-side comparison of the original printing of Gold West with this new edition. You can check that out as well. But the gameplay is still good, it's still clean, it's still sort of gears within gears, which works very nicely and keeps you engaged. Every little thing does something else. Every pressure point applies some other location. I like it. It's kind of an old school Euro game in a way. I reviewed Skyrise, which I gave an 8 out of 10. This is the reworking of a game from quite some time ago called Metropolis from Istari Games. And I think they did a good job updating it. It feels more modern. It feels a little more forgiving. It's very attractive, though, and I like the new ways in which things are scored. There's a couple of things I did not like as much. I thought they had this new numbering system for the bidding, which seemed overwrought and largely unnecessary, but the whole thing looks good, feels good, and again, has a little bit of that old school Eurogame vibe to it, which I appreciate. And then lastly, I reviewed Life in Reterra, which I gave a 7.5 to. And this one is a tile laying game with quite a bit of variety right out of the box and very clean turns. On your turn, you're simply grabbing a tile and placing it, or you can play one of the ones you're holding, and you only have a few for the whole game. You're building patterns in front of you, making large groups, but then also taking these little buildings and placing them into your land. Your land is only going to be 4x4 or so. And that's it, the whole, or 5x5 maybe. It's very few turns, and then you're done. And then you score a few things in it. I like how clean it is. It's pretty simple. The rule book could have used some clarity, and I think there might be a couple of rules too many in the game for sort of the simplicity it seems to be attempting to go for. It could have, I would have cut out just a couple of small things, I think, personally. But I like what it's doing. It's got a great look, and it plays lightning fast. So I enjoyed it. And that's it for me, folks. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Joey seems to have some very miniature-heavy game over here. Too bad I won't be talking about any of those because it's Chris time. Hey, folks, this week I took a look at a few games, the first of which, Winter Court, I gave a 6. This is from Rio Grande, Tom Lehman. There's a good card game underneath here, but I feel like there's just a few things that don't sit well with me. I give it a 6. It's not a bad game. I just wish that the mid-range cards had a little more power. A few things that you can check out the review and see why I thought it was good, but only okay. Next up, Inventions from Lacerda. I gave a 7. This is his most recent game. Big, heavy, very difficult to teach, and yet I find that the core loop of the game is really enjoyable and fun, but there are others of his that I'd rather go back to in the long run. And then Marrakesh, 7.5. This is Stefan Feld's City Game Collection from Queen. I think that this one has a lot of mini-games going on, and if you like his other games like Trajan, or maybe even Bora Bora, you can see what is good in here. I feel like there's like a little bit too much, and yet still fun, so 7.5. The other thing that Wendy and I did over the course of these last weeks here is that we did a word games who were better, kind of took a look at the history of different word games over time, and then did a few little rankings of them. So that has been my week.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yee, and I have 2 games for you from the last 2 weeks. 2x2. Such a good number. Anywho, so the first one is Winter Court. That is a 6.5 for me. And I gave this a 6.5 because I feel like it was almost there. I mean, it's a head-to-head game where you're pushing and you're pulling these little meeples back and forth by playing cards. And initially I was like, not so sure about the push and pull. But I did like it because I have a lot of control over it. It's not just I play a card, you play a card, but instead it is I play a card, I get this meeple, and I make that choice of do I want to put it back in the neutral zone and get a cool benefit, or do I want to hold on to it? And I really like that. So Winter Court has some good decisions, but I also feel like it's not quite there because the cards, especially the middle number of cards, are just pretty useless during the game, and then the low cards are frustrating. So I feel like it's almost there, but not quite. So 6.5 for me for that. The next one is Inventions. This is the new Vital Lacerda game, and this one I gave a 7. This one, I enjoyed a lot of what was going on. The actual gameplay, there's some really cool moments where you're chaining together actions and you take one full action that leads to another full action. And so you have these big turns that are exciting and you're doing a lot of stuff. But there's also a huge tactical element to this game where a lot of what you're doing is dependent on, really, can I control this not region, but am I going to be able to place out the right thing in the right color at the right time based on the cards that I get and what other people are doing? It's very, very tactical, and it very much depends on a lot of kind of random input things that have to do with cards that you're flipping over. And so that side of things, for it being such a tight, cool chaining game that you do all this fun stuff, to then having such a tactical element, I think it was fun, and I would play it again and I would teach it, but it's not going to be one of my favorite Lacerda games. So that and the theme is like kind of there. I kind of get how it's there, but you don't really like feel like you're inventing stuff. So anyways, that's a 7 for me with Inventions. I think that there's some really good aspects to it and some not quite there elements. So there we go. That is Inventions for 7. Let's go and see who's next.
Well, we did a catch-a-palooza of Subterra. Z's been raving about this game for a while, so I gave that one a play. And then there's a couple top 10 lists. We did top 10 games from 20 years ago. Me, Chris, and Z did that. And then we did a top 10 games for Magic players. Me, Z, and Roy did that one. Of course, obviously, the top 100 lists went up from the gang. 4 of those in the last 2 weeks. We played some games live, where I also reviewed Linx. This is kind of a rock, paper, scissors, tic-tac-toe style game, which I found to be amusing. A nice little game, 7 out of 10. Life in Reterra. This is a tile-laying, card drafting game from Hasbro. Kind of a lighter weight gamer-style game, 7.5. I did some short reviews of games. I did 5 games that made me sad. And I did 6 games, just 6 various games that I reviewed. There's a lot of different games that came up. Let's mention Life in Reterra. I did not review Skyrise with the gang, but I'll tell you that I would have given Skyrise a 7. I enjoy it, but I don't think it's as amazing as some folks think. I feel like the game plays you more than you play it, but it's really interesting and terrific production. I also reviewed... let's see, I'm spinning through here. Post Office with Z. A nice little tile-laying game, 7.5. I did some blogs you want to check out. A visit to the Board Game Geek headquarters, so you can see what that looks like, and a blog of Board Game Geek Spring for there. Me and Z took a look at Donut Shop, which is a nice tile-laying game again, 7 out of 10. And a funny party game I played with my daughters, Caution Signs, an 8 out of 10. I'm probably missing some because there was a lot of stuff over the last 2 weeks, but either way, full reviews and full videos are in the description of this one below. I'm Tom Vassell. We'll see you next time here on the Dice Tower.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us for that video. If you haven't yet, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hey, make sure you check out What's Happening, where I'll cover an app on an iOS or a Switch device, and you can check it out along with me. Thanks very much. You've been watching The Dice Tower.